Hey guys, welcome back to the Deep Beauty Podcast. When I say I'm excited for this interview, I really mean it. I have been wanting to talk to the National Alopecia Areata Foundation forever. And we have Gary Sherwood from the foundation. He's here to talk to us. He is their communications director, and he even started their legislative liaison program. Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Deepa. Real pleasure to be here.
I'm like I said, I'm just so happy to have you on. I've known about you guys since I first experienced alopecia areata myself, which was about 6 or 7 years ago at this point. But why don't you talk to us a little bit about how it's NAAF for short? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, we say NAAF.
NAAF. Okay. How NAAF got started, who started it, and how long it's been around for.
So I like to say that NAAF was started by patients for patients. It was started by three women right here in California's Bay Area who themselves had alopecia areata. And so initially NAAF was a support group headquartered in San Francisco, and that group still meets regularly. They then filed the paperwork. They did everything you're supposed to do. They got a board and they began the foundation. And more people who had this disease began to hear about it. You have to keep in mind the landscape some 40 years ago when you had alopecia areata, very few people told anyone about it because they didn't really know what it was. And for a lot of people, it was a source of embarrassment, if not shame, and they wanted to keep it a secret. And I think that's one of the many legacies of NAAF is that that's no longer how alopecia areata is perceived at all. We've seen it come along so that patients feel much more empowered and more open about having the disease than they used to. Even 10 years ago, I came to NAAF in 2012, and I've had this opportunity over the past decade to see the changes being made in that public perception and how alopecia areata is looked at by the rest of the public. And I mean, there's still a ways to go, and we still want to expand awareness even further. And so that's why it's so great that people like yourselves, Deepa, are giving us these opportunities to go and discuss this so openly. It's something which happened just last year, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners will remember, was what happened at the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was when you had we had an alopecia patient who herself, felt slighted in public. And no matter how you feel about what happened as a result of that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like we would ever encourage anyone to take up violence on
Of
behalf of
course.
this. Nevertheless, when that happens on a show like the Oscars, it grabs the national attention, grabs the international attention, really. And those 2 weeks following the Oscars were the two busiest weeks of my professional life. I had one media call after another. And it was not just me. We had a number of our patients who had volunteered to talk to the media. They also spoke with their local outlets as well. You might remember PBS NewsHour did a great piece on alopecia last year, which featured a number of our patients on it who we recommended to them. And so you have that, and you have the fact that, up until a year ago, not even 11 months really, you did not have an approved treatment for alopecia areata.
Mm-hmm.
And this was another thing which I think sort of kept it in the shadows because even dermatologists didn't know much about it or how to treat it.
True. Yeah.
But what happened was in June of 2022, just weeks after the Oscars incident, you had the FDA approve a treatment called Illumiant, which is a product of Eli Lilly. And Illumiant was approved for adults with alopecia areata, even though I know that they put some younger people on it too, some teens have been taking it. And so you combine that awareness windfall of the Oscars incident with the first drug approval, and the profile of alopecia areata has risen dramatically like it never has before. And that's something which we think is good because the more people who know about this disease, the more people there are who want to help. And they realize they probably know someone who has it because, your lifetime incidence rate with this is about 2.1%. And we work that out to about 7 million Americans who have
Wow.
had, currently have, or will have alopecia areata at some time in their life.
That's a huge number.
Massive.
Wow. So who does NAF now primarily serve? Because I see on the website that there's a lot of children that are on the website. There's a lot of programs for children. Is it everyone with alopecia areata?
It is. It is. It's all age groups. Certainly children. You're more likely to get diagnosed as a child than you are as an adult. And there are adults who also get diagnosed, but it's more likely to happen if you are a child or a teenager. And so we absolutely have support programs for both adults and children. We have a youth mentor program, and that's open for any alopecia areata patients ages 17 through 30 who want to take what they've learned from their own experience and share it with a younger person who has alopecia
Oh,
areata.
wow. That's
That,
amazing.
that's another thing started by patients for patients. That was something which we had two young people in our community who were high school age at the time, and they really felt NAF should have something like that. And so we began offering the program in the fall of 2017. And I always encourage young people, if they really want to do something for someone else who has alopecia areata, they should really look into, being part of that program.
That's pretty amazing. What other programs do you have? Like, what other resources do you have for alopecia areata patients?
Well, I'll tell you something I'm particularly proud of because I'm the one who started it, and that's our legislative liaison program. As I mentioned, I came to NAF in 2012. It so happened that NAF had its annual patient conference that year in Washington, D.C., and we had about 700 people attend that conference, and we had a massive day on Capitol Hill. And I thought, well, this is great. We have all these people on the Hill, but what would make it even better is if we had relationships in place already with those legislators who we're meeting with. Now, I had come from working in public affairs for a major insurance industry for 13 years before coming to NAF. And I had done a lot of advocacy in the insurance world. And so when I came to NAF, it's like, here's what you got to do. You got to start those relationships now, so that the next time we come to DC, they all know what alopecia areata is. And the more likely it is they'll be willing to help us. And so in the fall of 2012, I started our legislative liaison program. And the way it works is you meet with your congressperson and your state's two senators. You meet with their district offices once a year,
Mhm.
and we prepare the asks for you. So you don't go in blind. We prepare you with, like, here's what you're going to talk to them about. You're going to tell your story, what it's like for you to have alopecia areata. And then you tell them, here's how you can help. You form that relationship, but then also what we do is we have a day on Capitol Hill every September during Alopecia Areata Awareness Month. And I take about 30 advocates with alopecia areata, and we meet with the offices on Capitol Hill. So we're really hitting them both at home and on the Hill. And so this way they become even more familiar. When I say they, I mean our legislators become even more
Mhm.
familiar with alopecia areata. They're more likely to help. It spreads awareness. And we've seen the proof of this in a number of ways. One was that President Obama mentioned alopecia areata in his budget address to Congress in 2016.
Wow.
In 2017, we were able to get a highly coveted meeting through the Patient-Focused Drug Development Initiative with the Food and Drug Administration. And I am absolutely convinced that's what led to the FDA to eventually approve Illumiant last year, because we brought 200 patients on site. We had another 200 join us online. So you had 400 patients participating in this meeting with the FDA. According to the FDA, they told us that's the most number of patients they ever had participate in such a meeting. And at that
Wow.
meeting, our patients, they told the FDA, look, here's what's painful about having this disease, and here's what we want to see, and here's what we don't want to see in a treatment. And so the FDA took all that and they used that when they needed criteria for approving treatment.
And so, can you talk to us a little bit more about Illumiant? How, like, what the success rate is like? Just anything you know about that particular treatment.
I can speak on it in a limited way. I mean, I don't work in the research and clinician field, so but what I do know is, like I said, it was the first approved treatment. It is what's called a JAK inhibitor.
Mhm.
So the way alopecia areata causes you to lose hair is it's your autoimmune system itself attacking
Mhm.
the hair follicles. For reasons we still don't know, it no longer recognizes those hair follicles. And so the hair is ejected, it falls out.
Mhm.
It's not that your immune system is failing, it's that it's working too well.
Yeah.
And so
Too
what a
efficiently. Yeah.
yeah, it's working too efficiently. So what a JAK inhibitor does is it inhibits the immune system. So your immune system is no longer expelling the hair follicle.
Okay.
And so you're going to probably see a few other treatments that are also JAK inhibitors get approved very shortly,
Mhm.
and they work along the same lines. And so as to its efficacy, I know because it did pass phase 3 trials and it has been approved by FDA. It has been found to be safe and effective on, if not quite 100% of those that tested, at least a large enough number so that the FDA felt confident in approving it, for public use.
Wow, that's pretty great.
Oh yeah, again, this is a landmark because we wouldn't have had this up until 11 months ago. I was in DC 2 weeks ago as part of the Coalition of Skin Diseases Day on the Hill. And when I would meet with legislators or with their staff and urge them to increase funding for the National Institutes of Health, well, the NIH is a big umbrella organization. Under that is National Institutes of Arthritis, Musculoskeletal Diseases,
Mhm.
NIAMS. NIAMS is who has the government's research portfolio for alopecia areata. So the more money that goes to NIH goes to NIAMS, and then NIAMS has more to spend on alopecia areata research. And I would tell the legislative staff and the legislators themselves, if you're looking for tangible proof of what NIH funding accomplishes, then here you have it. You have approved treatment for alopecia areata, which did not exist, less than, a year ago.
Wow.
This is something that's, yeah, because NIAMS provided much of the funding that went into that research that led towards a JAK inhibitor. And so we are, seeing the fruit of that. And so that's something which we think is highly significant.
Mhm.
And we continue to advocate for increased funding for NIH and NIAMS because we want that research to continue at pace. Remember, we only have treatments. We still don't have the cure yet.
Right.
So that's what we're still working for. Our work is not done by any means, just because we have treatments coming.
Well, you have a conference coming up soon, right?
We do. I'm glad you mentioned that. We have an annual conference, and it's usually in a different city every year. During COVID, we had to, make it virtual, but last year we were able to go back to doing it in person. And we will be in person this year, June 29th through July 2nd.
Okay.
And it will be in Denver, Colorado.
And
And
how can people attend if they want to?
okay, I'm so glad you asked that too. Please visit our website, www.naaf.org. Go to naaf.org. As soon as you get on our landing page at the very top, you'll see how you can register for the conference. We would urge you to do it now because we still have early bird pricing. And we have a great hotel rate. I believe the hotel rate's $169 a night, which is, if you stayed in a hotel at all recently, that's nothing. And so, especially if you yourself have alopecia areata, or you know someone who does, especially if it's like a young person, a child, we have a kids camp at the conference. And if your kid is like the only child in their school who has alopecia areata, I can't tell you how invaluable the experience is for them to be with literally hundreds of other children who have the same disease.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
It will absolutely change their lives. So, that's something which is like always like one of the most popular and worthwhile components of the conference is that kids camp.
Oh, that's so great. That's amazing. And I did see that there's a way to volunteer as well.
Yeah, there is. And so when you register, you'll see that it'll ask you if you want to be a volunteer at the conference. So if you do, please fill that out, and someone, I guarantee you, will be in touch with you shortly because we could always use volunteers. The conference, there's so much that we have going on. We've got inspirational speakers, and we have what we call the Ask the Experts panel, where it's various researchers and clinicians
Mhm.
talking about the latest, in the cutting edge, really, of where we are with the research. Because, the stuff that they're working in, a lot of times they're not able to share a lot of that with the public.
Right. Yeah.
But this is like one time where they can share what they're allowed to share. And so we really urge you, if you're interested at all, like what's the current state of research, come to the conference, attend that Ask the Experts panel, and you'll be able to ask them. We've got lots of fun things to do. Like I said, we have the kids camp. We have musical performances from people who themselves have alopecia areata. Our closing speaker this year is someone who I've been wanting to have us close the conference for years now. She was going to do it in 2020, and then with COVID, we had to push that back. Her name is Molly Tuttle. She's a Grammy-winning musician and songwriter. She's an award-winning guitarist. I would urge your listeners, please go to her website, look her up. You will be amazed by this young woman. She is so talented. Her music is so great. And she has such an excellent story to tell as well about how alopecia areata did not keep her from realizing her dreams. And so she's going to be our closing speaker on that Sunday. And we look forward to having her. And we've got lots of other cool things that we're planning for this conference as well. And so I urge your listeners, if they themselves have the disease or if they know someone who does, really think about coming.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be like an invaluable experience to be there for sure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I hate cliches, and I know this is going to sound very cliche when I say it, but we hear it all the time because this is what people tell us. They tell us that their life was changed by coming to the conference. And
Wow.
after they come every year because
Oh, wow.
it means so much to them and empowers them. Again, just the experience of seeing other people
Yeah, that
who
sense
have
of
this disease.
community for sure.
Yeah.
And so what can we expect to see from NAAF in the next maybe 5 years or so?
You're going to continue to see us really, push not just treatments, but like I said, also, really trying to find that cure. But really, research right now is at the highest clip it's ever been,
Mhm.
because now that we're seeing these successes, I think what's going to happen as we move forward is I think we're going to continue to push research because success begets success. And because we are now seeing these dramatic leaps forward with the JAK inhibitors, you're going to see other classes of drugs too, which we hope will be just as effective and safe on alopecia areata patients and get approvals as well. Because what we really want to see is our patients having choices. Something you'll notice is we never tell you what's the right answer for you. You're never going to hear NAAF say, well, you should take this drug.
Right.
We can tell you that, well, it's a great thing that there is this drug approved for those
Mhm.
who do want it, but we're never going to tell you you have to take it. We're never going to tell you that you should wear a wig or should not wear a wig. We're never going
Mhm.
to tell you that you should wear a hat or should not wear a hat. Whatever you want to do and you feel comfortable with, that's the right answer. One of NAAF's founders, I love this expression that she would use. She would say the patient drives the bus.
Mhm.
And I echo that. It's like I'll have parents ask me, well, what should we do for our kid? We want our kid to wear a wig. Our kid doesn't want to. They feel it's itchy and hot. I said, well, there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
You have your answer.
That's
But
true.
it could be the other way around too. If your kid does want to wear a wig, you're not so happy with that. Well, look, your kid's the patient, you
Right.
know, and this should work with whatever the relationship is. If it's a spouse who has alopecia areata, they have to be the ones making that decision. If it's another loved one, whatever the case may be, you have to let them make those choices. And NAAF is there to enforce those choices, to bolster those choices. We want you to have those choices. And so when we see more treatments coming down the pike, we see those as more choices.
Mhm.
Again, we're never going to tell you this is the choice for you. That's entirely your decision. But we like it that our community does have those choices.
Well, I love that your foundation exists and that it's here to support patients with research and with education, with community. And I'm so excited to see what's to come. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. Once again, can you share the website with everyone?
More than happy to. Yes, we are naaf.org. That's www.naaf.org, National Alopecia Areata Foundation.org. Our website just went through a beautiful redesign. There's so much to find on there. I encourage you, if you go to that site, give yourself at least a half hour to a full hour to explore everything on there because we have lots of other programs. We have our team up program where like you can, work with like a local sports team and hold an event where you can spread awareness at that event. We like to especially
Wow.
do this with games in September during Alopecia Areata Awareness Month. And so, anyone who wants to do one of those, please let us know. You'll see that we have our HARA program. This is if you're a doctor or you're someone, in the medical field. HARA stands for Health and Research Ambassador.
Mhm.
And, we have lots of opportunities for them as well. Like I said, we have our youth mentors. We have our legislative liaisons. We have legislative mentors, which is for if you're someone who is interested in the political process, but you're not yet old enough to vote. If
Mhm.
your age is 12 to 17, you can be a legislative mentor, and we'll teach you how to meet with your legislators. And I think it's something you'll find really exciting. Again, started by people just like you. It was young people who started that program. They asked if I would support it, and I said, absolutely. So, legislative mentors might be the program for you. Learn more about everything NAAF does on that website. You'll see we have alopecia areata news. So you'll learn everything that's going on in the community. If you want to go to our calendar, that shows you like what events are going on. If there's a support meeting scheduled near you. If it's not near you, you can see if it has a virtual component. You might be able to log on that way. So again, go to that site, go to www.naaf.org and see everything NAAF has to offer.
So many tools. I can't wait to check it all out. Thank you so much again, Gary, for being on. I really appreciate it. And I hope you guys really got a lot out of this episode. I know I definitely did. And right as soon as we're done, I'm going to go head over to the NAAF.org website as well. And I will put that link in the description and the show notes for this episode. Thank you so much.
Deepa, thank you so much. This has really been a pleasure.